Good morning and welcome. We will give everyone a couple of minutes to join the webinar, and then we will kick off. Okay, hopefully everyone had time to join us this morning. Good morning, very warm welcome. My name is Irene Darenko-Smith and I'm Head of Fujifilm Process Automation. Together with CodeBlue, we're part of the wider Fujifilm family and our joint focus is on helping Kiwi businesses work smarter. Thank you for joining us for the second webinar in the Innovation Series, and today we will cover the topics related to data governance and how you can get the most out of your business data to improve business performance. Now, data governance is not the most exciting topic in the world and many people don't really want to spend a lot of time on it, but it is a necessary one to make sure that you've got the right foundations for your innovation, better business processes, and also importantly, AI. So today we will hear from Matt and Amelia, who are in the room together today, about data governance and why it is important in the world of AI and the overheads and resources you will need to implement a robust governance roadmap. We will start with Matt Bourne. Matt is Solution Architect and Modern Workplace Practice Lead at CodeBlue. He has over 20 years of industry experience and at least 10 years working with Microsoft 365 technology. Matt is an early adopter of AI and very passionate about responsible use of AI with a focus on data governance and security. So that's his favorite topic today. Matt will explore principles of data governance, the challenges of implementing data governance and resources required to implement a robust framework. And then Amelia will follow Matt's presentation with a perspective on how Microsoft looks after your data, security and retention policies, and how you can streamline your data processes. Amelia has over 20 years of experience with Microsoft Dynamics, working for Microsoft partners, distributors, and Microsoft in New Zealand. She is an expert in utilizing Microsoft technology to drive transformation and ensure customer success. So please post your questions anytime during the session using the Q&A function located at the top of the panel, and we will answer your questions at around 9:40, and we will wrap up the webinar at 10 a.m. sharp. And with that, I will invite Matt to start the first part of the webinar. Welcome, everyone.
Morning, everyone. It's a beautiful sunny-ish day in Auckland. Right, so today we're talking
It's always like that.
What's that? It's always like that.
It's not.
Well,
It's not.
to be fair, it's probably much colder in Christchurch today. Right, so let's talk about data governance that everyone loves. Okay, so I thought that I would start off today with actually defining what exactly is data governance. I mean, and in its basic point, it is effectively a framework of policies and roles and processes. And the idea of it is to basically put a guideline of around how your data is secured, how it is governed, who has access to it, and how it's used. that's effectively what data governance is, which sounds like quite a mouthful, and it is, and it does cover a lot of aspects. Now, I then wanted to go in a little bit deeper into that and give you a bit more of an understanding of how you can look at this and break it up into pieces a little bit, but also, I'm going to cover over some of the relevancies and why it's so important. So some of the key aspects you've got, in the end, if your data has no governance, no guidelines around it, you can end up with quite messy data. Now, the problem with that is when you start looking at reports or anything like that in the future, effectively, if you've got bad data that you're looking at, the data you're looking at in the report is also bad or incorrect as well. So things like data governance become really important for when you're looking at reports or even just when you're trying to find a file. Probably one of the biggest things in my career that I found is if you can't get the management team or the stakeholders on board, this will never succeed. The hardest thing is to convince not just the company, because obviously the company will have to all have to come along for the journey, but if you can't convince the leadership team to invest time and money and effort into this, then it won't succeed. And the problem with that is that then what happens is everyone else looks at the data and it ends up just becoming a big jumbled mess. So things like policies and procedures around data are incredibly important. Now, why has this become such an important topic? So over the last, let's call it 10 years, the amount of data that we create has changed. So this is a nice Microsoft slide, and I first saw it and I thought, seems like a lot of data. So what this is saying, so to give you an example, a zettabyte is 1 million terabytes. So most people's laptops will have, let's say, half a terabyte on them, maybe. All right, that's total storage space. This is how much data they predict that by the end of 2025 we would have created in this year alone. So just in 2025, the prediction is we will create worldwide 175 zettabytes of new data, so data growth. And so I started thinking about this because obviously this has become very prevalent with the likes of AI. You've got sensors running everywhere. You've got cars that now create data which goes off into a storage vault somewhere, which houses all the sensor information. Your fridges, your watch, your cell phones, and then obviously AI is creating a massive amounts of data. The other big one we had recently was when COVID hit, and everyone who was using paper, suddenly everything moved to the cloud. Everything was digital, and the shift happened very quickly. So it got me thinking. So I went in and I pulled a report. This shows from 2011, or 2010 technically, up to 2025. And then I asked AI to predict the data growth up to 2030. Now, as you can see, these are in zettabytes, which yes is a very, very big number. To put that in perspective, I think a single gigabyte, which there's 1,000 gigabytes in a terabyte. In a single gigabyte, you would get maybe a couple of million emails. So yeah, there's a lot of data. But as you can see, around the year 2020, we went from 26 to 41, which was the biggest jump in history. And then since then, so 2020 was when COVID hit. And then since then, if you have a look, it's steadily been rising each year, year on year, and it's accelerating. It's not going away. So the whole point of today is to really talk about why data governance is important and why this is such a big shift in the market is, 20 years ago when you had a tiny little server that, you had a wee bit of data on it, was fine, you could manage it really simply. Nowadays, you actually need to have a plan and you need to have processes and policies in place to actually manage the amount of data that companies are generating. So, as with everything, there is always challenges. One of the big challenges, which I cover over a little more on my next slide as well, but data is everywhere. So you have data coming in from, let's say, your Microsoft 365 platform. You might have it coming in from your ERP system or from a business application. You might have data sitting in reports or in your OneDrive or on your machine or on your cell phone, on your Google Drive, etc., etc., etc. There's data absolutely everywhere. And one of the challenges is how you manage that. And inconsistency in user error. Now, humans, by definition, humans are not perfect by any means, and that's great. That's what makes us unique, and that's fantastic. But the unfortunate thing about that is if you lined up 10 people in your business and said, show me how you install this file, you'll get 11 different ways of how to install that file. Because if you have no standards that people are required to follow, then people will tend to do things the way that makes logical sense in their own brain. Another big one is, so they call it data loss in the shuffle, but effectively it's when you move data from one place to another or you pull it into a reporting system, that if something's not correctly stored or has correct tags on it, then that data can be lost or misplaced. And the problem with that is that then you end up with incorrect data at the other end. And then the last one is the overwhelming updates. Now, what I mean by this is that not only do you have overwhelming updates from people that you're trying to get information from, but also just the amount of changes in the regulatory requirements for how you have to manage and keep data. This one here is one of my, as I've been in tech for a very long time, shadow IT. What is it? It's a term that gets thrown around quite a lot. The simple gist of what shadow IT is if your entire business is running in Microsoft 365 and one of your staff members decides to start storing company files in their personal Google Drive or in a personal OneDrive or in a Dropbox location or on their mobile phone, this is shadow IT. Now, there's a great example of this. If a company decides to restrict the use of Copilot, it's a great example, and they go, okay, well, we don't trust AI, so we're not going to use it. Now, instead of putting policies around it so that your staff can use it, the other option is that you go, okay, we're not going to allow anyone to use it. Now, the problem is what people do is they'll go and use things like ChatGPT, which you have no control over. They could be putting company information in ChatGPT, and that's then training the model. So sometimes allowing your staff to do things and allowing it to be controlled in a healthy way is actually more productive. So shadow IT is one of those things that it's been around for a really long time, but now with so many options, it is something we do have to be very mindful of. So one of the things I wanted to talk about here is just a bit of an overlay as to some of the steps that you should be thinking about. So one of the first ones is obviously knowing and understanding your data. Think about ways to protect your data. So this could be policies, this could be security levels, this could be having it monitored, preventing data loss. So data loss normally comes from either inadvertently oversharing a file, or it could be from someone maliciously trying to steal a file. And then have a way to govern your data. So retaining and deleting. So data lifecycle management is quite important. Probably the last thing I'm going to put down there in this slide is just understanding your business requirements and drawing up a plan. So when I say business requirements, I do cover this in a wee bit, but basically with all the requirements around the world, so you've got things like, in Europe, you've got GDPR requirements. is just one prime example. You might have to meet ISO 27001 standards. Just depends on your business and your environment as to what data standards you may or may not need to meet. Now, what can we do about this? So one of the tools you can use now, so Microsoft have released a tool called Microsoft Purview, and this tool is actually quite cutting edge. Now, I will preface this that some of these features, they do require different licenses, but this is the tool that Microsoft uses themselves to manage their data. So it's they designed it for that purpose, and then it's now worldwide. So one of the big things around this is you can obviously use it for records and data management. So these are the different types. So you've got built-in to be able to classify, retain, which is your life cycle management. It allows you to do it with minimal end user impact, which is really good. Then you've also got intelligent structures, which I'll come through in a second. But this one does require an extra license if you want to do the full automated side. And this will help with reducing some of the workload that your staff would need to do to maintain data governance. And the last one is just around being able to identify potential issues around compliance and make sure that you're meeting your obligations. So the one nice thing about Purview is it does actually give you a really nice compliance score. And that score actually looks at things like, are you meeting your requirements? You can set which ones you need to meet, and it can actually help you decide if you're meeting those or not. Sorry. Right. So you've got some built-in records for management. Preventing productivity losses is quite a big one. The other big one in there, which is the third one down there, is actually secure information effectively. Now, this could be using a mixture of Microsoft 365 compliance, or it could be using external product to do this. But either way, securing your data is a really relevant point. I was at an event yesterday, and one of the big things that came out is that New Zealand tend to have a bit of a we're too small to be targeted attitude in general. And it can be a little bit it's a bit interesting about the way that because a lot of us have small businesses, and just the way that people look at that, they're like, oh, we're too small. It's we're not going to be targeted. The problem is that New Zealand targeted, and so securing your data and having controls around it is becoming more and more important every single day. Now we've got classify your data. So you've got a couple of ways you can do it. So one way is you can do a manual step where you can create tags and labels, and you can manually apply those to your files as you go through. Now, manually doing them, that is fully included in your business premium. Now, I'm not going to steal Amelia's thunder because she does cover into some of this in the licensing in a wee bit, but there is some of these features here, there's add-ons that will help you achieve some of this. But these are just some examples of what you can do, right down to having your files automatically classified based on a set of protocols or an algorithm, or if all your company internal information has a particular code on it, you can have it look for those codes inside your files and will automatically classify, put sensitivity labels, etc. on them. So it is really powerful. It is a very, very cool product. And then the last one here is just having visibility. So one of the biggest downsides I see for a lot of people is that if I was to sit there and say, hey, how would you, let's say you had someone came to you and said, hey, we need you to meet GDPR requirements. Now, for a lot of businesses, they'd look at it and be like, where do I start? And this is a big problem. Where do you start? So a lot of the time I would generally come in, I'd have a sit down and say, right, what do you actually need to meet? and let's do a bit of an audit and analysis of your data. The first thing would be is trying to understand, what position you're actually in at the moment, because everyone's in different situations in their digital transformation journey, and that's great. But yeah, so for this, it's really important just to have a bit of an understanding of your data and where it actually sits and what it does. Last thing I want to just bring up, this is my last slide before I hand over to Amelia, was just some of the different regulatory requirements that exist around the world today, and this is growing. There's I haven't got the one from Australia in there, so they've got one now as well. And then as you can see, if you're dealing with people in these countries, you may or may not have to meet some of these. But then you may also have your own requirements. You may have ISMS standards. You may have ISO 27001 as an example. Those are two quite popular ones. Obviously, you may have to meet GDPR. Now, any of these here, if you were audited and you were supposed to meet them and you didn't, can actually cause quite big problems. So things like Purview can really help with this, and it can actually help align and give you a bit of oversight as to what you actually need to do. And obviously, we're here to help as well. If you'd like more information around how we can do this, if you'd like a demo of how Purview works, then definitely put that in the feedback, and we can arrange a demo to come out and help you out with it. And I'll hand over.
Cool. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to us. So I guess Matt's said this a couple of times today, data's everywhere. But I think, I'm not sure if you've heard this terminology used by Satya or anyone actually. I'm sure IBM and AWS, everyone talks about this new classification that data is the new currency. And I think that actually lands quite well, because if you think about the amount of data that you as a business has been growing, and Matt talked about the prediction of that growth, your data is such a critical thing. And I think for me, three things stand out. It is the security of your data, the availability of your data, and then the what's the other one? Sorry, security, availability, and access to the data from various systems. And I think the data that you are using at the moment are enabling you to provide new insights. The data that sits in your system can now actually help you make better decisions going into the future, comparing years previous to years now based on seasonality or whatever your business is about, and then help you drive better business outcomes. So the next,
just one thing around that. So Amelia made a really good comment at the start there around data is the new currency. So I want to resonate on that, and I'm going to challenge everyone. Have a think about this. How do you think Google got to where they are? It's all on data. 100%. That's how. That's their main revenue stream is data. So it shows you how powerful data can be if it's controlled. And if it's utilized. So you'll have data in your businesses. Obviously, you might not be able to be a Google, but that data can still really work for you.
So if we think about the first webinar in our series, we were talking about Copilot, agents, and this is where I'm bringing the governance a little bit more into reality for businesses. So you're thinking about your Copilot chat with web knowledge. Now that could be chat GPT, and actually putting your business knowledge or your business IP into a chat GPT that feeds the whole world or you can use it within Copilot itself, within your company data, where you can actually then start using large language models to teach your company organizational data to act on certain prompts and things like that. And then we have the Microsoft 365 apps. So we're talking about Dynamics, we're talking about just your productivity tools like Word and PowerPoint and those things. Yeah, all the things that are on at the bottom. And then the Copilot Studio. So this is where we are building agents to actually bring a new UI to the user, to put in a prompt to go and look for data that sits in your organizational data and then bring information back to the forefront. So what is happening? A long time ago, Microsoft, for instance, had ERP, finance, before that was AX, was in a separate database tucked away in a server on-prem, or your Business Central, same thing, tucked away in a server on-prem, and now it moved to the cloud. So it's all SaaS offerings, and now they're taking it one step further, and they're taking these lines between these bits of data that we're seeing on the screen, and it's actually erasing those lines with a Copilot Studio and an agent, because the agent will go and have questions or prompts to get the information, and then actually go and listen to all of these systems and bring that information. Then the agent can then go and say, okay, well, what do you want to do? Okay, now I want to update this opportunity. So through the agent, which is the new UI, you look at the data, or you connect with the agent, and it goes and populates the data into those business applications. So what I'm trying to say is the boxes are fading away, and we are bringing information in another way to users that makes them more productive. And that is why security, privacy, compliance, accessibility, all of those things are so important. And that's why we're talking about governance today. So I just wanted to start with those few things. If we go to the next slide, so this is quite interesting. So this is a study that's been done, and you can see the source there. But the top concerns for early adopters, and that's me and Matt and quite a few people out there, the lack of visibility for organizations is a big concern. And especially when using Gen AI, so any AI, and then the lack of protection. And that is, as we're going to keep on saying it, this is where it is so important. Just one bad actor need to do something silly to your organizational data, and then you're going to go, damn, we should have listened, we should have done a proper data governance policy and put things in place. So if we then go into the next slide, and we just talk a little bit about, and I think Matt's covered this in quite a few of these slides, but it's the oversharing or data oversharing, and the sensitivity of that data. And one of my slides further down talks about a little scenario where you can go, oh, damn, that makes now sense. And why have we not put this stuff in place about data oversharing? And it's really, in the scenario, you'll see it's about storing your customers' credit card details and stuff like that. Then data leaks. So we are now sitting with, I don't know, I've got probably about 5, maybe 7 different business applications on my mobile phone. And if someone picks up my phone and they can access my phone, there's problems, big problems already. and then compliance usage. And again, the unethical generation of content. And I guess if you think about this from a social perspective, again, maybe not unethical, but if you are someone that is in the public space for your organization, you want to make sure that that person is very compliant to how they use terminologies and all that stuff.
Just talking about data oversharing. One really good example of this that I have seen in the past. So who on the call, and obviously I can't get answers, but I'm sure you're all thinking about it now, has jumped into a Teams meeting and gone to share their screen and inadvertently shared what was on their screen. It could be financial information, it could be HR information.
Could be email.
Could be emails. Now, the cool thing about if you use things like Microsoft Purview, there is features in there which, if you tag a file, let's say it's an HR file, and you tag it as sensitive internal only, when you jump into a Teams call, it blanks that file. So on the screen, they just see a blank section, and it's just black. If they try and take a screenshot, if someone tries to take a screenshot of that file or share that file externally. And so we're not saying that all of this is malicious. Some of it could just be inadvertent, or people who are in a rush. It does happen.
Just unaware.
Yeah, just unaware.
Yeah.
So just something to think about.
Yeah. Cool. So then we're thinking about, again, we're talking about the security, the compliance, the privacy, and so on. But making sure that you have secure access, even in your SharePoint. Restrict or block risky access with conditional accessing. Matt spoke about that earlier. And then control the use of your co-pilots on devices with device and application management. So because we are in this world where we are so excited about all the cool AI things, the co-pilot things, the agent things, we have to make sure that we are making no terrible mistakes, leaking our data and all that stuff. So protecting sensitive data, so you can put the labeling, the DPL policies, the audit logs, and I'll talk a little bit about that from a Dynamics or a Dataverse perspective, because that's where I live. Is in Dataverse, which could be any of your business applications, so D365, finance and operations, Dynamics CRM, even Business Central. You can actually put your audit logging on per table, and you can also then do retention per table as well. And I'll get to the data retention in a little bit. And then govern co-pilot usage. I know in our previous session, we were talking about how cool Copilot is and the fact that it's just doing and saving us so much time. But if you don't govern that really tightly, it is going to bite you in the bum at some point. So, yeah, just wanted to cover that. Now, we spoke about this a little bit earlier. Matt talked about the 2 or 3 different versions of how you can use Purview or foundational security or comprehensive security within Microsoft. So with your business basic or your business standard, you have these foundational security controls, which is MFA, search and export, audit logs, retention, deletion, restriction, SharePoint searches. Matt's not a big fan of the restricted SharePoint searches, but that's a discussion for another day. And then we've got comprehensive security, which you can use Business Premium for, and that's just an extra security layer with a bunch of additional functionality tools. And Matt's the man to talk about those things more than I am.
I just want to add in here, just to make this really clear, what we're talking about here is data security. We're not talking about overall security.
Yeah.
You would still need to have security products around on top of these. This is around data security. So around, things like e-discovery will allow you to go off and, research and look, pull information about people that may have left the company and things like that. But this is purely around data security and health.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. So now we're talking about a few little scenarios. So this is a little bit about the SharePoint security thing, but I just want to see how this lands, because I think this is critical, and we have the same scenario for a business application that we're busy putting down for a customer. And yes, they've asked us to store credit card details, PIN numbers. They work with disabled people, but it is so critical to think about what is the data that you have in your system, if you are compliant even to store that data in your system, and then how you are bringing bits of information together where someone, if they get access to your application, how compliant you are, and also how do you ensure the sensitive data is not exposed, and data breaches and compliant issues and things like that. So the solution is protect sensitive file shares with your Microsoft Business Basic and Business Standard, and just putting in those policies, the what's it called? I forgot the word.
Compliance policy.
Yeah, but also the tags and the files and the
data classification.
All of those, to make sure that your stuff is restricted and you can't actually get a full picture of a person with maybe some credit card details and things like that, where it can bite you in the backside. The scenario just takes that into the same sort of level, but with different layers, with the business premium and how you can encrypt data through an encryption product that comes in with business premium, which is what we're actually looking at implementing for this customer around the credit card details and PIN numbers and et cetera. So if we then go down to a little bit of the security and compliant add-ons that are available for Copilot, we can see that there's the different SKUs that looks at information protection and governance, insider risk management, and e-discovery and audits. And then it just breaks down the feature and the description of that feature. Now, please note that we will share these slides with you, so don't stress too much about taking screen grabs or anything.
There is also worth noting here that Microsoft are just about to release. It's already been announced. There's a SKU that's going to include all three of these for like a discounted price, which is called E5 compliance, and that can be added to Business Premium, which will give you all these feature sets. So if there's a path that you do need to go down, or would like to go down, please reach out and have a chat to us. We can talk further about licensing options.
And I guess this just breaks it down a little bit about all the features and what is included in each of those three packages. And it's fairly similar to the Business Basic and Business Standard, but then what is included in the Business Premium. And it's really about the data, the security, the endpoint management, and the compliance, audit logs, data retention, things like that. Okay. And then this is just an additional slide about the capabilities to help protect the data. It's very much, I guess, around the security, and very similar to the previous slide. So now, okay, data retention. I have this discussion with customers with teammates in the kitchen all the time, because people want to know what is the best way of retaining your data, and looking at things like how long to retain, what to retain, all that stuff. So, and because we are now in this world of AI, it is important for us to look at what is the actual data that we're looking at. So, if we look at this little section here, so business application data lifecycle. It's really broken it down into 3 critical areas. So it's active data. This is data that is readily accessible in a live app. So if you think about your business application, your ERP, your CRM, and it's available and should be available on a real-time basis. Then we look at your inactive data. So these are historical retained records, or your policy to keep those records. And then these records could also be things like, if you think in a sales environment, opportunities that you closed a year ago or 10 years ago. It's making sure that you actually take that data, and it's now really historical inactive data, but you can put that in a safe place. Because something that we haven't mentioned today, which is critical, is although data is the new currency, data storage is extremely expensive. So if you don't look at how you're going to do the data life cycle and when to put data in certain places to keep record of it, maybe you get audited or you have to keep records for 7 years or things like that. You need to know how and where these things can be retained and all those things for compliance and legal discovery and things like that.
You also have the other issue of potentially having that same file saved in 17 different places. Yep. So you're now paying for storage for the same file 17 times. Yep. It's another great example.
Yeah. And then the next one is the data that's deleted. So the life cycle has been completed and you don't actually need to keep those bits of data, and you can actually put it in a different place, or actually just get rid of it completely. So this slide here, this is sort of the old way of thinking. And if we think about how that works in a business application or in the Microsoft ecosystem, we look at the operational data, which is our active and inactive operational data. So that's number 1 and 2. And having that in a business application available to report on, to filter in, to use for auditing, all that stuff. And then the transactional sync. So making sure that if you need to have that data somewhere else and secure it, that you can do that in a different environment. And then your inactive operational data for historical purposes, for analytics, for audits, for legal discovery, for all of those things. So just a little bit of little grains of salt for you to start thinking about your retention of data. Now, our data, the long-term retention is also quite a big thing, from where to put that data, what is the best place for us for cost saving, and also have it in a single view. So we've got our quick find, which is our Dataverse, and I've spoken about Dataverse a little bit before, but that's basically a relational database that sits at the back, which is actually a SQL table, really, that sits at the back of most of your business applications, depending if you're Microsoft or AWS or whatever. But we're talking Microsoft, so it's Dataverse and that's your UI. Then you want to think about what is the data that you want to put in a one lake. So that's just a data lake where you have security around it, so that we have governance around that. Or you can have the little links, Synapse links.
Sorry.
For your your custom and analytical platforms. That's just a couple of things for you to think about around your long-term retention plan for data. Okay, so how can we help? So like our previous session, we've got two sides. We have the Code Blue side, we have the process automation team. So let's go back to Matt. He's going to talk to you about how they can help for your governance.
Yep. So we've got consultants that are able to help with data governance and compliance strategies. Obviously, we can talk to you about Copilot and AI compliance. We can also help you write AI policies. So a lot of companies are struggling with this at the moment as just to how they define this. We can also help with restrictions around, other AIs if you'd like to stop some of the shadow IT going on. Implementation, we can definitely help roll these out, and obviously audits and data security to meet your business requirements.
And then from a process automation point of view, so what we will do is we can come in, we can work with you, make sure that we get the right stakeholders involved. As Matt said earlier, it is critical to get your C-level executives across this as soon as possible. So we will work with you to build a collaborative vision on how to govern access to your business application, your Copilot, your agent, how to help you mitigate device risk. So having data on multiple devices, protect against threats, and look at how we can help you put that plan together, the securing and the governing of your application data, and then also discover the use of AI apps. So if you are planning on in your digital transformation to go through, hey, we are thinking of adding a few apps for a few business problems that we are having, then we need to start thinking about this vision of our governance and how we're going to put things in place so that we don't get in trouble. And then we can help you with architecture design, and look at all your business or all your applications, your website, and how we can get your organizational data safe within the governance, and then how we can use that data from a Copilot or an agent point of view to bring things to the forefront, and making your users more productive using easier tools, a new UI to go and look at data all over the place. And then we can also help you with the solution review. So please reach out to either Matt and his team or me and the business process automation team, and we can definitely have discussions with you on how we can help.
Right. So we'll jump into some questions. We've got a couple of questions sitting here. One of them being, are there any particular industries that should worry about data protection more than others? So I suppose it's a little bit of an open-ended question. The simple answer is no. All industries should worry about data protection. Now, I think the difference here is the level of data protection. So, for example, if you're a financial institution and you have a lot of customer financial data, then your requirements for maintaining and protecting that data are going to be very, very high.
The same with healthcare.
Healthcare would be another great example of that. But then let's say you're a plumbing business that has some customer information. Now, that information is still critical. You still want to keep it, still want to govern it and make sure it's looked after. But the the requirements that you have to meet are going to be much lower. So no, I would say there's no industry that shouldn't worry about it, but the level of data protection or data governance that you'll be required to meet could be vastly different.
Yeah.
And that goes across the board. And a lot of it is understanding in your environment or in your capacity as a business, what requirements you actually need to meet. So another question here, can we automatically classify data using policies, or do we need to rely on users to tag correctly? So this comes down to a licensing issue. Yes, you can, if you have the compliance licenses, you can set up policies that will classify data for you based on a number of aspects you can put into an algorithm, or based on a number of factors. So if you could do things like, hey, I've got this area, this whole area here is HR. I want all of it to be tagged as HR sensitive. And just because something's in that area, will automatically be tagged for you. But you can also do it on, if a file contains the words internal only, inside the file, you can have it so it will automatically tag that file as internal only. Email's the same. So you have got a lot of controls, but those are effectively paywall blocked, I suppose, is a simple way to put it. They're not included in your business premium. Business premium gets manual tagging. If you'd like any of the automated features, they are either in one of the compliance add-ons or an E5 license. But yeah, that's the last one.
Is that the last one?
Yeah, the one at the top there.
Okay, well, probably time for us to wrap up. One more. There you go.
Yeah, so data stewardship is critical prerequisite to have data governance. How do you recommend small, medium businesses to go about this? Who should be your data steward? I think the easy answer is everyone should be. Data is such a critical thing, and even at Fujifilm, it is incredibly important for us as an organization, and we have so many secure things. But I think everyone should be a steward of your data, also a steward of your brand, just out there. But I think it is important to, when you are putting your vision together and you are putting your plan together, is to make sure that you have it from a bottom up, but also from a top down. And you have to have your C-level in every decision-making process. And if they don't drive it, then you can stop right now. It's as easy as that. Because employees or individuals or certain individuals within the organization can go above and beyond. But if there is not a top-down policy or a top-down sponsorship, then that becomes quite difficult. I hope that answers the question.
Sweet. I'll hand back over to you, Irene.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Amelia. It was very insightful. So we will host this webinar again next Wednesday on the 25th of June from 9 till 10 a.m. So if you have a colleague who missed this particular webinar but still would like to find out more about data governance, please let them know that we will rerun it. And we also have 2 more webinars upcoming in June and July, one on accounts payables, automation, and PEPL compliance. So keep an eye out for invitation to that. And also non-for-profit organization automation and management of customer records and data. So my colleague Cass will get in touch with you with the invitations for this webinar, so register if you're interested. And lastly, we would really like if you submitted your feedback using the QR code, and you will go into a draw to win a $100 Prezi card. If you complete your survey before the business tomorrow, we will then do the draw and notify the winners via an email. And that is it. That is us for today. Have a lovely day, and we'll hopefully see you soon again for the next webinar we have in our series.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.